So before we take a quick look at Study Guides 3.1 and 3.2, just a quick reminder that you might want to read them. Yeah. And then, of course, with your textbook, there is a website that has multimedia web links for 3.1, 3.2. So notice for 3.1, we've got animations on the reproductive structures, meiosis step by step, crossing over, a very important event that basically increases diversity in sexual reproduction, something called random alignment. Again, that increases diversity. And then a nice little comparison of mitosis and meiosis. So yeah, make sure you take a look at those. So that's Study Guide 3.1. If you're new to the idea of a study guide, in a flipped classroom, this is the equivalent of the notes. Great things to do first on paper, and then maybe go through and enter your answers on the computer. The purpose of that, of course, is instant feedback. You want to know that you're right. Your brain wants to know if you're right. That way it can consolidate learning and make it available for the future for the more important things like actual critical thinking, problem solving, all those higher order thinking skills. So yeah, this is not a test. This is something where you're actually supposed to take your textbook, open to section 3.1, read, and as you go along you're going to hit the important words and important facts and hopefully put it all together. So first, maybe a little bit of review. One of the basic principles of biology is that life only comes from life. The only way to make new cells, which are the simplest components of life, is to have existing cells divide into two. This process is called cell reproduction. You get bigger as you grow, not because each cell of your body grows, but because each cell divides to become two cells. Each of those cells divide to become 4, they divide to become 8. You get the picture. This process of cell division, we call that, what do you think? Yes, we are correct. Well done. You will recall from the last chapter that this form of reproduction produces clones of the original cell, in that the daughter cell has identical DNA to the parent. This is called asexual reproduction. Right you are. The favored reproductive strategy of bacteria and somatic cells. On the other hand, what type of reproduction involves specialized cells called sex cells? These would be sperm and egg, for example, joining to produce a zygote. Multicellular organisms, and that would be like you, reproduce sexually. So we would call those sexual reproduction. And of course I put it in the wrong column. Silly, silly boy. Sexual. Boom, right. I have a feeling that number 4 is not going to let us correct that, but after good Christian writing, have two types of cells: sex cells, or they're called gametes. And of course, yeah, probably won't accept that answer here, but you know what? When you do it, sex cells are called gametes. You get that? Sex cells are called gametes. Body cells, on the other hand, are called somatic cells. I'm going to encourage you to keep moving through this. Feel free to do this with a partner. If the school website is still down and the tracking of these things is not happening, then you're going to have to take a picture of the certificate, or better yet, print it up or send it to me so we have, you know, something for your hot seat interview to show me. So, look at all this good stuff. Okay, before moving on to the 3.2 study guide, 3.2 study guide has some important terminology in there, and I think you would be very frustrated if you have not visited your textbook animation website. I'm going to show you this one just in case. It's on genetic terms, because this particular diagram does show up in the study guide. And what you see is, of course, a couple of homologous chromosomes. Homologous what? Let's find out what they have to say.
Diploid organisms have pairs of genes on pairs of homologous chromosomes. Each gene has a specific location on the chromosome. We call this the gene's locus. In this species, the locus for gene B is always between the loci for genes A and C. Most genes come in two or more slightly different molecular forms called alleles. Different alleles specify different versions of the same trait. When a pair of alleles at a locus are identical, this is the homozygous condition. When the alleles at a locus differ, this is the heterozygous condition. We use capital letters to signify dominant alleles and lowercase letters for recessive ones. An allele is dominant if its effects on a trait mask that of any recessive allele paired with it.
And on to Study Guide 3.2. Hopefully you have a copy, and preferably you've already been through the animations, read section 3.2, and done the paper version. And that brain of yours is just going to be so happy. So, after having read chapter 3.2, match the following photographs with the type of reproduction. Well, I know this is a human, and I know we don't undergo mitosis, so I'm going to say that there is sexual. Oof, yeah! Simply because the skateboarder was produced by the fusion of two gametes, just like you. These little critters, they appear to be like higher organisms. I'm thinking they're sexual. Right. Starfish, believe it or not, they're sexual as well. The only one that might not be sexual here is this Hydra, because he's undergoing budding. You see these little branches that are building onto the stalk of the Hydra? That is asexual. So looking at the variation among the different species on this page, and of course in your classroom, some are tall, some are not so tall, others have blue eyes, others green, confirms the, what do you think we call that? Starts with the letter D. Diversity. We're very, very different, and I'm kind of glad we are, you know. Asexual reproduction accounts for all of this variation. That is absolutely false, because what does account for it are the permutations and complications of sexual reproduction. So, you're an expert on meiosis. You know that sex cells, such as sperm and egg, undergo a reduction type of division in which the chromosome number goes from diploid to haploid. Meiosis, however, is not sexual reproduction. What it does is produce the gametes, the sperm, the egg. At some point, the gametes from one organism must come together with the gametes of the same species in order for sexual reproduction to occur. The joining or fusing of two gametes is called fertilization. Yes. So, sperm and egg equals what we call a zygote. Each gamete is going to be haploid because it has half the chromosome number. But when the two gametes come together and form a zygote, now we go back to being diploid. Excellent. My cat Pepper happens to have 38 chromosomes. How many chromosomes would be found in its gametes? Okay, 38 is its diploid number, 2n. What would be its haploid number? N. Half of 38, which is 19. Yes, meiosis would result in half as many chromosomes as in his body cells or somatic cells. Assuming Pepper finds a suitable mate, how many chromosomes would be found in the zygote formed by the fusing of his gametes with Mrs. Pepper? Okay, the fusing of gametes means 19 plus 19 equals 38. Yes, baby Pepper is, after all, a cat. Cats as a species have 38 chromosomes in 19 pairs. The first cell will then undergo cell division, mitosis, in order to increase in size. Each new cell will contain the same genome as Pepper's zygote. So very cool. So just in case you have forgotten your password for the animations on your website, all you have to do is put in your school abbreviations, and you should come up with the password. Or you can ask me, or you can look in your course outline. So things get a little more complicated, a little more challenging in here, but if you need to repeat that animation that we had at the start, I think you will be fine. If not, make sure you talk to some of your peers. Talk to me.